none, I'm going to call the CAMPO meeting to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Chair Bagwell,
Here.
Vice Chair Novak,
Here.
Member Schutte, Member Dodson, Member Henderson, Member Maloney, Member Erb, ex officio Member Rosenberg.
Here.
A quorum's present.
Thank you so much. We're now on to agenda item number 3, which is public comment. Do I have any public comment? I must, because Clay's here. Come on up.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Clay Mitchell. I wanted to comment and hopefully provide a bit of clarity related to some public comments that were made at the last RTC meeting. I realize that this is CAMPO and not RTC. Unfortunately, my schedule does not allow me to stay for that public comment, so if you'll indulge me. The comments were related to your discussion about potential funding sources for road maintenance. And I'm not a resident of Carson City, so I don't feel it's proper for me to share an opinion on how you spend your taxpayer money or how you generate it, but I do serve on the V&T Railway Commission, and that body and its finances were mentioned several times during the conversation. I am just one of 5 commissioners. I'm not speaking on the commission's behalf. I am, however, familiar with its financial situation and wanted to clarify just a few of the points that may not be well understood. The first is that the V&T Commission is not a company. It is a state commission created by the legislature for the purpose of reconstructing and operating a railway between Gold Hill and Carson City. It has been funded both by its operations as well as by taxpayer subsidies provided by Carson City and Story County. I was not involved in the early discussions about the V&T project, so I can't comment on what representations were made back then, but here are a few points about the current fiscal situation. Carson City has been providing a $65,000 per year subsidy to help underwrite operations. It is my understanding that this subsidy is completed and will not be paid going forward. It is also my understanding that the railroad funding mechanisms that Carson City has in place, a portion of the TOT or bed tax and an 8-cent sales tax, can be repurposed for other priorities, though there may be limitations on how those can be used. Story County also provides a $250,000 per year subsidy for operations. This is anticipated to continue as Carson shouldered much of the early burden of the cost of construction, and the Story County tax was implemented several years later. Regarding current fiscal performance, Ms. Peters, who submitted written comment, arrived at the conclusion that the bottom line was a $685,000 loss per year and advocated for a change in the posture towards the V&T Railway. That $685,000 is actually a net change in position. In our budget, we're required to book a certain amount of depreciation every year, which is fairly common. In the budget she referenced, that amount was just shy of $788,000. If you back out that depreciation, which is not a cash cost but a paper expense, the V&T Commission increased its cash position by almost $103,000 for that year. Again, it's subsidized by both Carson City and Story County, so it's not per se profitable operation, but it's not burning cash. We operate within our budget, which is not negative. Anyway, I will submit written comment.
Please.
My time is up, but I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. Do I have any other public comment? Okay, then we're going to move on to agenda item 4, which is approval of our minutes of October 11th. Does anyone have any changes or corrections? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion.
Move approval.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Thank you. We're now on to agenda item number 5A, discussion and possible action regarding contract 243-00222 for CDM Smith to complete the zero emission transition plan for a total not to exceed of $191,923.44. Lisa, may I have your disclosure, please?
NRS 281A.420 requires me to disclose conflicts of interest and abstain from voting when I have a disqualifying conflict. My nephew is Chris Martinovich, who is employed by Carson City and will be representing this item. Chris and I are not receiving compensation of any kind directly related to this item. It will not foreseeably impair or enhance the terms of his service with the city, and we are not affected by the outcome of this item to a greater degree than any other resident of Carson City. NRS 281A.420 only requires abstention in clear cases, and the independent judgment of a reasonable person in my position would not be impacted by my familial relationship. Therefore, I do not have a disqualifying conflict, and I will be voting on this matter.
Thank you so much. Mr. Martinovich, will you give us just a briefing?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Martinovich, Transportation Manager. So as noted, this item is to award a contract to CDM Smith for the completion of our zero-emission transition plan. The zero-emission transition plan is really going to look at the transition to alternative fuels for Jump Around Carson, the transit system, but also look at the larger fleet operations and fleet maintenance facilities at Carson City Public Works, which maintains those. It's also going to look at some of our regional partnerships and opportunities to partner with those other agencies in our region related to alternative fuels. The need for the zero-emission transition plan stems from a requirement from the Federal Transit Administration, such that if we wanted to pursue federal funding for the purchase of buses that are powered by all other fuels, hydrogen, natural gas, electric, those other fuels, we need to have this zero-emission transition plan in place to make sure we've thought through that process of that transition. So that's the reason for the plan. Funding for this plan comes from a grant we received from the Nevada for NV Energy. We received $225,000 through their transportation electrification program. There's no local match, no cost to the city. So we're funding the development of the plan from that grant, as well as city staff time to support that grant. The other highlights I'm going to touch on sort of at the end of the meeting, but this sets up CAMPO well for some changing requirements related to greenhouse gas emission and carbon reduction target setting. I'll speak more on that at the end of the meeting, but establishing this plan gets us in heading in that direction as required by the Federal Highway Administration. So with that, happy to take questions. Brian Stewart with CDM Smith is here in the audience if there are any questions for him.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chair, and all you. I'm sorry. One of the questions that I have is that have we, as a city, decided perhaps that we might be a carbon dump-off place for people that don't have options? We could make our streets out of cement, and they're using that now as a method of dealing with carbon. So some of those considerations, since asphalt to me is really a pain in the butt. Considering cement in alternative ways, just something new to me, and I'm hoping you'll all explore it a little bit and consider the fact that if we invite companies to say, hey, we'll help you get your cement out and such if you'll take our carbon. So just a thought. Thank you.
Seeing none, I'll accept a motion. Mr. Dotson.
I move to approve the contract as presented.
I will second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Let the motion reflect that was unanimous. We'll now move on to agenda item 5E, which is discussion only. It's a presentation regarding CAMPO's annual federal obligation report. Excuse me. Kelly, you gonna take us off on that one?
Annually, CAMPO is required to report all federally obligated funds for specific projects within CAMPO's Transportation Improvement Program. As reported on packet page 71, there were 4 projects with FHWA funds obligated in federal fiscal year 2023. And packet page 72 shows 1 project with FTA funds obligated in federal fiscal year 2023. The federal obligation report was posted for a 14-day public comment period in accordance with CAMPO's public participation plan from November 18th to December 2nd, 2023. No comments have been received.
Great, thank you so much. Does anyone have a question on this? Just in case any public comment? It's always worth asking. It's discussion only, but nope, okay. Well, thank you so very much. Great job. Okay, we're now on to agenda item number 5C, discussion and possible action on our public transportation agency safety plan and federal fiscal year 2024 safety performance. Dan, going to give us a,
Members. I'm Dan Kelsey, the transit coordinator for Jack Transit. I'd like to briefly go over our proposed 2024 Public Transit Agency Safety Plan and targets for Jack Transit and point out a few changes to the plan versus the prior year of 2023. The Jack Transit PTAS is required to be reviewed and updated annually in accordance with the Federal Transit Administration rules to maintain eligibility to receive federal transit grant funding. Annual targets are set as part of that review, and those are submitted to the Nevada Department of Transportation. We are seeking approval of this 2024 Jack Transit Safety Plan and targets from CAMPO. The 2023 Safety Plan was very successful, and there were no major accidents, injuries, or deaths to report for the year. I would like to stay with the plan for 2023, and our targets will remain the same as the 2023 year. There were a few changes, and I would like to point out that were in the plan for the 2024 year. Revisions made in the plan under Section 1, Transit Agency Information. Under the Chief Safety Officer, my name was put in place over the previous person. Section 3, Safety Performance Targets. Under the System Reliability portion, we lowered the estimated mileage between major mechanical failures of our buses, and that does have to get reported as well. The reason for the lower mileage is because of the aging fleet and the additional wear and tear of that's expected for the upcoming year of 24. And those are the only two changes that we have in the 2024 plan. And I'm open to any questions or comments.
I want to make one note,
yes,
Madam Chair, if I may. We did have a typo on packet page 81. The dates for myself as the accountable executive, as well as you as the chair of the Metropolitan Planning Organization, should be 12/13/2023. It reads 12/13/2022. We've corrected that on the sheet for your signature. I just wanted to note that as part of the motion, if that was, make sure it's noted.
is there any public comment on this item? Mr. French?
Denny French, Carson City, thank you. My comment about the safety is I've only written several times this year because I'm not able to walk as much, and I found that the seatbelt situation was quite cumbersome and not really very helpful. I just saw an accident where a driver, a very fine driver, saved everybody by braking suddenly when he was approached by a vehicle going through a stop sign, and everybody that wasn't buckled flew forward. And I had trouble just getting the buckle to where I could maybe put it in to secure it, and myself. And the drivers are doing an excellent job, but if we're not secure, we're going to be flying. I appreciate any considerations on that. And just as far as public safety and communication with individuals, there are people that get on the bus on occasion that have different circumstances, and it's sometimes they come on with less than clean clothes. And clean clothes are not so much the issue, but there are individuals that don't have control of their bowels or urinary tract issues. And they're I think, are making it harder for some of the other passengers, not because we can't put up with something that's just not very comfortable for a moment, but that the drivers don't have an opportunity to necessarily sanitize the seats. When I worked at Ron Woods, one of my job was to sanitize the chairs after the children had sat in them, and they made them so they were easily dealt with as far as keeping them clean. So I just appreciate that, and help your drivers have ways to relate to a passenger that is continuously in that situation, perhaps get them some help. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Do I have any other public comment on 5C? Okay. I'll take a motion, and again, as, oh, you had a question? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry I didn't raise this sooner. I noticed that on packet page 77 on the safety events target, it has 2 for fixed route and 1 for paratransit. On packet page 83, it has 2 for fixed route and 0 for paratransit. So I just wanted to clarify when we're making the motion what the target is that's proposed.
The target that will be proposed will be 2 for fixed route and 0 for paratransit,
So as it's shown in the plan.
as shown in the plan, not
Okay.
in the staff report.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And also good presentation. They get easier after your first one. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, thank you.
Well, Ms. Maloney, does that mean you want to make the motion?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I move to approve certification of the Public Transit Agency Safety Plan, including the federal fiscal year 24 safety performance targets for the Jack Transit System as provided within the packet.
I second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say, oh, as amended?
Yes, as with the amendment, I
That was
suggest
discussed on
that
the
the
record.
motion include with the amendment discussed in the.
Okay, the version in the packet is correct. The one in the,
There was a second amendment with the date.
oh, I apologize, as amended. Thank you.
And agrees with the second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect that was unanimous. Greg, if you would take over for me for this spot, and I'll come back as soon as I get the other action done. Yeah. I'm trying to do 2 things. It's not pretty.
Righty, we'll check back on our agenda. And I guess we're up to non-action items, 6A, the Transportation Manager's Report. I guess that's Chris.
I do have a few items I'd like to cover. Appreciate that, Vice Chair Novak. First of all, I'd like to pass it over to Kelly as she pulls it up. It was a question we received a couple of meetings ago related to travel patterns. Kelly pulled together a quick exhibit the last day or so to show us where traffic is going. This will be provided as late material following this meeting. We were just able to pull this together. So Kelly, do you want to present this?
Yes, thank you, Chris. So yeah, like Chris said, we received a question about commuting patterns into, out of, and through the Campo region during the October annual network monitoring report conversation. And so a key component of understanding how people move through the region is understanding the daily work-related commuting patterns. So Campo used the On the Map tool on the census website to examine these patterns, and they just updated it for 2021 numbers. So this first slide depicts work-related inflow and outflow to and from the Campo region. So the middle green circle indicates the number of individuals who live and work inside the Campo boundary. The dark green arrow on the left indicates the number of people employed within the Campo boundary and live outside of the boundary. And the light green arrow on the right indicates the number of people who live within the Campo boundary and work outside the Campo boundary. So this is a high-level analysis, but we can also dig a little deeper to understand the direction and distance workers within Campo are traveling home with this radar graph. So people traveling north are depicted in the top triangle, while people traveling south are depicted in the bottom triangle. And the third highest direction is in the northeast towards Lyon County. So staff is looking into this analysis for the 2024 network monitoring report in relation to the jobs housing analysis to really understand how people are moving through the region and how growth will affect that movement.
Yeah, just an interesting background to start answering some of the questions we were getting earlier in previous meetings. So more to come on this. Just wanted to give a highlight of the quick data research we were able to provide. So thank you, Kelly. Other items I wanted to highlight, and I alluded to it earlier, was greenhouse gas emission target setting. So recently, the Federal Highway Administration has issued a new final rule related to target setting for reducing greenhouse gas emissions within the state and with metropolitan planning organizations. This final rule was issued in November and requires metropolitan planning organizations to set targets during the course of the next year. So by October 1st, we're going to have to set reducing greenhouse gas emission targets for the CAMPO region. Very similar target setting to what we do for safety, for our pavement, for bridge, similar to what's reported in our annual monitoring report. But the details we're still working out. We're looking forward to working with NDOT as they set targets and understanding what the rules and regulations are and figuring out how we're going to set targets going forward. So more to come on that, but that final rule was issued, and that's why I mentioned it dovetails into that zero emission transition plan, as that's a plan targeting, carbon and greenhouse gas reduce emissions from the transportation sector. Other items I want to talk about. Yesterday, we had a good meeting with the Federal Highway Administration. We met, city and CAMPO staff met with their new division administrator, deputy division administrator, and other staff. Touch base that since their planning manager left several months ago, it's been pretty quiet over there at Federal Highways, so we were excited that they reached out so we can re-engage with that staff. So looking forward to coordinating with them and getting back in the coordination more directly with them. We also met today, CAMPO and city staff met with the Carson City consultant and the group doing the update to Carson City's master plan. So as we look at our regional transportation plan, making sure it's consistent regionally with the city's master plan, and as they embark on that update. So those meetings are ongoing, and we're looking forward to continued meetings with those folks. On the corridor study front, we've got a lot of outreach and activities going on. The first, we had a great meeting today on our local road safety plan. Appreciate those members, Commissioner Novak, Commissioner Henderson, who attended that meeting for your respective agencies related to prioritizing and identifying and prioritizing corridors and intersections for specific or programmatic safety improvements. So we kind of narrowed down that list, and we're going to schedule some field visits in coordination with that committee and the sheriff's office and other first responders to identify, potential improvements to, high crash locations so that we can make continued improvement in the space of transportation safety. I know, speaking personally and for my staff, we are always thinking about safety. We don't always talk about it at this board, and perhaps we should, but as we look at our projects, we're always looking at implementing safety improvements. We're thinking about them for our District 1 projects. We're thinking about them as we go on our other projects on our project status report with the RTC. So always thinking about that, and just wanted to note the local road safety plan. On the US 50 corridor study front, I'm excited to let this board know that in the last 3 weeks since our survey's been out, we've received over 420 individual surveys, which I think is amazing for a project like this. There's been a lot of public engagement. There's been a lot of phone calls and emails and people making comments, the range of comments as you would expect, but a lot of good comments of, as simple as, thank you for thinking about this. Thank you for taking a look at this. It's really hard for me to get in and out of whatever. So excited to continue that process. We are working closely with NDOT as well as the agencies, Lyon County and Carson City, to identify those next steps and what sort of improvements these comments may result in. Fortunately, NDOT does have a plan in 2025, 2026 to do some improvements on US 50, and so we're hoping this corridor study kind of informs that decision going forward. So excited to report on that. And the last thing I wanted to mention, and this is more just to kind of plant the seed for board members, is we're working with their MPOs and our partners at NDOT related to potential federal policy, initiatives, state policy initiatives at the federal level or at the state level through legislative sessions. So I just wanted to provide an opportunity if you wanted to reach out, wanted to have a discussion at this board related to federal policies, state policies. I know that the chair has brought up in the past looking at changes to matching requirements for FTA grants. That's the kind of thing that, maybe we could bring that to our representatives at the DOT, at the US DOT or our congressional and Senate delegation. So just wanted to plant that seed in your mind, and that is the last thing I had. So appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. That whole greenhouse gas stuff, 129 pages of the Federal Register, so it was painful. So good luck sifting through that in the next year. Have any other comments?
I do.
Sure.
Thank you. And I just wanted to comment on the Highway 50 study. And I really appreciate the study and the opportunity to speak on it in that not only will it provide improvement to the project, but I think it can provide improvement to the process. Today I received an email with some questions and concerns, as well as my breakfast or coffee with Lisa this morning. And some of the questions that came up, it was the person didn't quite understand the purpose of the question, such as choose one between work, school, shopping, passing through. How about all the above? And this person is, well, what difference does it make? So I think these surveys can also provide an opportunity to really help the public and to understand how the whole system works in terms of safety, in terms of movement, in terms of waiting time. You know, I found it really interesting, that question, in that, are you driving through to get to work, or is it something that you would like to actually see Highway 50 more as an opportunity for business or for recreation? And so I think it can lead to some really good and insightful planning, especially in light of the master plan. So I found that really helpful. The consistency, the use of roads, traveling along US 50, safety improvements, what Kelly spoke to earlier. Nothing is in a vacuum, and transportation is not just driving, but it's that whole process of point A to B. And people do ride their bikes. There are cyclists, and they do, safety is an issue for them. Traffic calming measures are important. And so I just thought it was helpful, and I would suggest that follow-up, that there be explanations or a little bit of dialogue in terms of the whys behind the question. I think it would be useful.
I appreciate that, and we can definitely do that. And I don't know if I've mentioned or I failed to mention then that, you know, as we start developing alternatives and start developing the study itself, we're going to be presenting the results of that and the initial concepts to this board. So we're not just going to, the next thing's not the final item. So I just wanted to make sure that there will be some opportunity for that as we continue that process. And then we also are still, fingers crossed, hopeful we'll receive that second transportation alternatives grant that we applied for through NDOT in order to look at other components of the US 50 area, not only the road itself, but other regional connections we could do. Are there other multimodal components? You know, can we branch out a little bit, do a little bit more work in Mound House perhaps? We're hopeful we get that, because there's going to be more, it enhances the scope and allows us to do more. So.
We have any other comments from folks on the board at all at this point? Wes?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited about the Highway 50 study as well. You know, and that's definitely an important issue for Lyon County. NDOT was at our county commission meeting last week, and to talk about it. It was the second time they've done that. The first time it didn't really go as everyone expected, but in between they had individual meetings with the county commissioners and to understand really what we're concerned with out there. So I really appreciate NDOT coming back and for listening to us. And US 50 is a big concern for the region and for CAMPO. So I'm glad to see CAMPO getting more involved in that. So thank you.
Sandra, anything new from the NDOT world?
As a matter of fact, there is. We've had some changes in our leadership team. Some of you know Jenica Keller, who was the Assistant Director of Operations, left recently. We're currently working on filling that position. 2 out of our 3 deputy directors are retiring next week. Darren Tedford and Jeff LaRue. Darren was over planning and administration, and Jeff was over maintenance and operation. I'm happy to report that I will be taking the deputy director of planning and administration role. upon Darren's departure. Thank you. I'm excited and a little nervous, but looking forward to the challenge. And then Mario Gomez, who was previously our district engineer down in Las Vegas, will be taking on the maintenance and operation. He will be located primarily in Southern Nevada, but will be traveling around the state. So we'll be working to fill the assistant director of operations and now the assistant director of planning. So it's exciting and kind of nerve-wracking time. It's a lot of changes in our director's office and elsewhere in the agency, but we're actively working on recruiting not just the leadership positions, but throughout the agency. So we have anyone out there anyone who's looking for a job. We have a number of openings across the agency and working to adjust there. In addition, with the escalation costs of our projects, there is some concern about continuing the level of the program that we have been putting out the last couple of years. So we're going to be reassessing that, looking at available funds and cash flow, and reevaluating the program a little bit. There is a chance that things may slow down a tad bit. I think all of our previous commitments are still there. It's just a matter of the timing of when we can deliver all of that. So no major changes yet, and we'll keep everyone updated as we adjust. But currently just evaluating that financial situation that everybody is in, with costs having been 30% year over year the last couple of years, and needing to adjust the program a little bit there. Chris mentioned working on policy issues, so we look forward to working with all of our partners on those. We do have a trip planned to DC in February. It's our annual through the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, talking about transportation policy issues with our congressional delegation, and we'd be happy to chat with Chris or any members of the board in terms of those priorities for you. We're of course putting together our list of concerns and priorities. So yeah, and we'll be working on, as Chris also mentioned, the greenhouse gas performance measure rule. We are working on, we're going to have to set targets much sooner than you all will, so we have to report those in February. So we're going to be working over the next month or so to figure that out and do our first measure reporting and target setting, and then work with all of the metropolitan planning organizations to meet those federal requirements. And we are excited to work with our new team over at the Federal Highway Division office. They've had a number of turnovers as well, and so we're happy to reconnect with some of the new leadership there, and anxiously looking forward to the new planning manager arriving. That was more than I planned on saying. Sorry, I just started, and there I go.
Yeah, I watched your board meeting Monday, and you're selling $150 million in bonds, but probably not going to help Campo at this point. Doesn't hurt, but.
Honestly, that's just to keep up right now, and like I said, reassess. But we'll continue to work with Campo and the rest of the state as well, to kind of find the right balance of making sure we're getting an effective and safe program out there with the limited resources we all have.
Good. Any other comments from the board members?
Thank you, Vice Chair. I just wanted to say I was serving a partial term, so it was just a one term, and my term goes back for the Board of Supervisors in a couple of weeks. And if for whatever reason I'm not reappointed to this board, this past year has just been a highlight, and I've really appreciated working with you all. So it's been a lovely year. So happy holidays too. Oh yeah, I'll reapply. Thank you.
All righty. No more items under, anything else under 6B, other comments or reports anybody needs to make? All right, with that, we're on to item 7. Public comment again, general session. Anybody ready to come up?
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I wish that I weren't the only one, but the deal is that I think I have something to contribute, and I have a question to have contributed back to me. The situation I'm concerned about is ecological and environmental and species related. The job that's going to be done through the area between the DMV and the Lowe's area there off of Carson, and then between Roop and there. I hadn't really gotten very much response from the state yet. Lindsay Boyer and Ms. Joy had responded, but not specifically about the Carson wandering skipper. And it was brought up as a part of the management statement that Mr. Markovich had made, and that's what caught my ear. And I hadn't heard yet if they had found that species habitat was going to be a problem with the construction of the area. I did find out that the lumps of dirt that had been put on the property were state, and that the grading and such had been done by state. And I'd like to sort of know what had been figured out between the state and Carson City as far as how the trail might be progressing or not. And I just hadn't heard anything. So anyone could answer that, I'd appreciate it. And also, I'd just like to say that surveys, based on how they're worded, can make a big difference. And sometimes you have to start by saying, could you all help us make a survey that would be understandable by the public? Because any way you tilt it, you might get an answer that didn't totally relate to what your intent was. And thank you very much for your time, and reapply. Thank you.
Any other public comment at this point? Well, and I guess at this point, we're up to item 8, possible action to adjourn. All in favor? All right. All right, thank you. We are adjourned. We'll start RTC at 5:15.
Regional Transportation Commission to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Chair Bagwell,
Here.
Vice Chair Schutte,
Here.
Commissioner Dodson,
Here.
Commissioner Maloney, here, Commissioner Novak,
Here.
a quorum's present.
Thank you so much. I'm now on to public comment. I don't have anyone for RTC signed up, so we're good. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item 4, approval of our minutes of November 9th. Any corrections or changes? No? I'll take a motion, please.
I move to approve the minutes from November 9th.
I will second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no. Was unanimous. Thank you. We're now on to agenda item 5A, discussion and possible action regarding proposed revisions to Carson City snowplow routes and to add certain cul-de-sacs and streets to the route because they are on a steep grade or their addition will improve city connectivity. Ms. Maloney, your disclosure, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. NRS 281A.420 requires me to disclose conflicts of interest and abstain from voting when I have a disqualifying conflict. For this item, staff is recommending adding 14 streets to the city's snowplow routes. I reside on one of the streets proposed for the addition, and I, along with most of my neighbors, have voiced concerns in the past concerning extended periods during which my street lacked access for emergency services and trash pickup due to unplowed snow. The judgment of a reasonable person in my position would be materially affected by this conflict. Therefore, I have a disqualifying conflict and will not be voting on this matter.
All right, Justin Tierney, Operations Manager for Public Works. Ms. Maloney, I too, this is my first presentation, so everybody be nice, be nice. All right, yeah, right. All right, we're here to talk about some proposed map changes as well as a brief overview of the snow operations. Our primary objective with the snowplow maps is the emergency access throughout the city. Those routes also provide access to JAC transit system, schools, bus routes, doctor's offices, hospital, and to and work, hopefully. While out there, our main focus is those primary streets. So all the primaries in the red is our main focus. Once those primaries are finished up, then we move over to the secondaries. The non-primary roads, which are the priority threes, those typically will not get hit during a typical storm, which that's most of our phone calls there. The larger storms we get into, 10 to 12 workers, and we're going the 24-hour shifts. And yeah, 24-hour shifts. And within the street division, there's actually 22 staff members. So when those guys are broken up, 11 and 11, so we got kind of a shortfall as far as the equipment when it comes to filling the seats for the equipment. Hold on. Oh, there we go. All right, here are the proposed rate changes that route changes. Sorry.
There.
Proposed route changes, the reason we're here today. So Vista Lane is the first one there. That's that area over there by the hospitals. A lot of those new medical facilities have moved in there. That's the reason for that one. Salk Road is up in the Gonai area, and that's more of a connectivity issue that we had up there. Down in Division C, Deanne Drive, Dawn Circle, Tucker Court, Anzac, McKay, or actually Anzac. Those are all the steep routes or the steep grades that we're dealing with up in that area. So Division D, also up in the Sea Hill area, bunch of steep areas, more than a 10% grade that we're dealing with up there. A lot of issues with even our plows getting up in there. A lot of complaints with waste management as well, trying to get up in that area. So, and then Roventini, Overland, APN, and West Patrick, which is not on this slide, are also steep grades down in that lower division delta down there.
And I will just jump in here real quick, Justin, just to clarify. So the slide presented here, we neglected to provide Patrick on this slide, but it is included in the staff report. It is included on the map, so we do want to include it. I just wanted to note that for the board's reference.
All right, so these are our 10-yarders. This is on Carson Street here. So right now, we currently have 3 of the 10-yarders with the wing. We have 9 5-yarders. Those 5-yarders are only, they only have the plow and the sander. We have 2 5-yarders with the plow, sander, and the wing, also with a pre-wet system. So we also utilize 3 different 1-ton trucks. 2 of those 1-tons, or all 3 have plows, but 2 of those are usually the ones that we'll use downtown in the downtown area where things get a little bit tighter with all the cars parking and all that. The poly blade is the one that we use in the concrete parking stalls on Carson Street, and we utilize that poly blade so we're not scarring up the concrete. That motor grader is that's our 6-wheel drive Billy Goat that we use up in our higher elevations. And then we have the brine truck as well. The brine truck is what you're seeing, all the lines on the road. We just got a second setup, and that did show up, so we'll be putting that into service this year. All right, here's some pictures just of the sanders themselves. This is a side profile. That the pre-wet system on these things is, we utilize those for, it pre-wets the material as it goes. It activates the salt, so that brine material is spraying onto the material, and it activates the salt. It also helps with the skip once it gets thrown onto the ground. So that helps out a lot with it. Just instead of going to the curb, it'll help stick to the road there. So this is kind of a side profile. I don't know if you guys can, yeah, you can see that. So those brine or the sprayers are inside that hopper right there, and that's what's spraying the material before it gets kicked out onto the road. This style here is our newer joysticks. Those are in our 10-yarders, and they've got a little bit of a fancier screen, but that tells us how many lanes per mile, how much material is going on the ground, how much spread we got, a lot of good information. So all those dials there are helping us with that. This is our older style in our 5-yarders. It's a thumb control, on and off switch. These are the brine tanks on the sides of the sanders, and they hold they hold 100 gallons each side for the pre-wet system. This here is our laser that is attached, and those are attached on all the wing trucks, all the trucks that have the wings, and those help us with knowing where those wings are, so we're not driving blind out there. And then the next picture is just the picture of the plow there off to the side. All right, we get daily and weekly updates, tracking weather, National Weather Service updates. They've come in handy. I mean, when some of the bigger storms come in, they'll sit down, you can email with them, and they've been great to work with. The traffic cams is something that has been great for myself back when I was running the crews. We used to have to get up out of bed and go drive around and look and see where the snow's falling, but it's been nice to be able to pull up all the traffic cameras and see what's going on out Brine operation, so those lines, the salt mixture is mixed at a 23.3 salt or solution. It's just brine and water. And we've been getting that all through NDOT. As far as the mixture that we use, it's a sand salt mix, just regular DG sand. And we get all of our salt from Huck Salt out of Fallon, and it's all out of a dry lake salt bed. So we mix those 3 to 1. Approximately running about 750 pounds per lane mile. Concrete impacts with the whole downtown project. We visited up in Tahoe, up in Incline Village, when they redid their whole roundabout and a bunch of sidewalk and curb gutter up there. After the first year, it was totally blown apart. So we looked into a solution that we could use, a salt inhibitor that we can use, and that's been working great. We've actually added it to our detail for all future projects, and we've been having great success with it as far as salt damage. And then we like to tell them, hey, no salt for the first year. The first year we did the downtown project, it was all just DG only. Sorry. Landscape impact, we really haven't had any. We had 1 year up in Lakeview, we had some concern with things dying off, but the trees were more set back some more, but we went ahead and did some sampling anyways, and it came back that the soils, there was very little soil or salt in the soil. So that's not much of an impact with all that. Same with downtown, all the new plants and trees down in there. Sidewalks and paths. Currently, Carson City has our municipal code that homeowners are supposed to be responsible for removing their snow on the sidewalks adjacent to their property. When removing snow, especially on the new concrete, we advise everybody, don't use the rock salt. I mean, it's just tearing up all the concrete. Obviously, using a shovel, getting it off as soon as you can is the best route to go. And right now, as far as Parks Department, I believe, or I know they do a lot of the work on the multi-use paths, and then they also do a little bit of sidewalk work as well. But other than that, if you guys got any questions, I can.
Does any
answer.
member have a question? No? Go.
Yep.
Go ahead, Mr. Novak.
Yeah.
There we go. When do you start plowing? How deep does the snow have to be?
So when I first got hired on here, it was, I believe, 2 inches. They made you wait, maybe 3 inches. But I get, as soon as it starts snowing, as soon as I see that it's gonna continue snowing, I'm on the phone, or I used to be on the phone, my old position. So we try to get on it right away, because as you know, as soon as somebody drives on it or you walk on it, it's just compacting into the ground. So the better, as far as I'm concerned, the sooner you can get on it, the better.
And then, we're talking about some expansion in the overall routes. There's no problem with doing that, or equipment-wise, is there any other needs that you have at this point?
Equipment-wise, we're doing okay. With 23 people in the street department, and we have 13 plows right now, and all the 1-tons and the grader, that's quite a few people that you need to operate throughout that storm. We do utilize water department, sewer department. They have some qualified operators that will come help out, especially when we get into those 24-hour shifts. It gets a little difficult to where filling those seats is a lot harder. Yeah.
Sure, Ms. Shooty.
On the financial information, and it says there's no fiscal impact. And am I understanding correctly, because you're in the area anyway? So, you're adding a little bit of plowing, and so is that why there's no fiscal impact?
As far as, what's that?
Well, I'm sorry, for the snow plowing, and so I think about just, Dawn Circle, for example, and you're on North
Right. So
Gentry.
a lot of those are being taken care of already.
Okay,
A lot of those steeper grades, if you're gonna slide into Edmonds when somebody's doing 30 or 40, that's something that we need to take care of. We're gonna be sanding. So a lot of those areas that are proposed have been hit already. Those are roads that we're usually hitting because we have issues there.
okay, but it's not costing the city any more, or
We're
I
in
just had
the
a
area.
question on that.
Yeah, we're already in the area, so.
Perfect, thank you.
Mr. Dodson.
Justin, with the Bryan operation and the addition of another truck there, does that mean you'll be doing more pre-wetting? Adding more routes, or is it just on the primaries that you do the
Yeah,
pre-wetting?
so that it wasn't an extra truck, so it's just a slide-in unit that goes in the back of one of the plows that we have. So it wasn't an addition, but it actually takes one of our plows away. But with the setup we had before with only one, we were only able to get so much done before a storm. Typically, you want to get that stuff down 3 days before. Usually to try to guess, is it going to rain or is it just going to be snow? So usually we usually don't start putting that stuff down till a couple days before. So we always struggled to try to get all the routes we wanted to get those done. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Is there any public comment on this item? Mr. French.
Denny French for the record. I have a statement about beets again, and I know Mr. Cooley had heard it and suggested he knew of that. They use it in the mix so that it does a better job of making the slurry work well. But then also, I would like to ask for consideration of sidewalks to be a little bit higher on the priority list. There are some well-traveled areas that you can't get to the stop light set, to make your crossing the buttons, because you can't get across those areas that are ramps because they're so full of snow or water. And when the guys come around those ramps at times, they push, the machines push the snow up. So I would like it really to be considered a little bit more, as I will be starting to walk more soon, and it will be in the snow at times. So sidewalks, perhaps, the people that are doing the flowers now and different downtown things could maybe be mobilized into a situation where they had a small piece of equipment that they could do some of those areas, or do hand shoveling with the workers from the prison. I don't know, but there has to be some better way. Several times that was really a danger or a hazard to me just to get to a safe sidewalk or a crosswalk. So I appreciate that being part of the mix, and maybe the beat thing too. Thank you. And good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for.
Thank you. Do I have anyone else? With that, I'll bring it back up here. Somebody want to do a motion? Okay, Mr. Novak.
I move to approve the proposed revisions to the snowplow routes as presented.
A second?
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. All those in abstention.
Abstain.
Thank you. Let the record reflect the motion carried. Okay, we're now on to agenda item 5B, which is possible action regarding the determination for West Coast Paving is the lowest bidder for our RAC downtown sidewalks and pedestrian crossings and projects for contract 243-00272. Does any member have a question on this contract for staff? Contracts are pretty normal for us, but anything jump out at anybody on this one?
Well, one thing I'd mentioned to Chris, I was glad to see FTA money is being used for sidewalks.
Yeah,
In the past, Federal Highways was stuck doing all that type of work.
that's right.
I'm glad. So however you pulled it off, thank you very much.
Okay. With that, is there any public comment on this item? It's a good thing. Okay, I'll take a motion. Ms. Schutte.
Excuse me, I move to award the contract as presented and authorize the Public Works Director to approve expenditure of the 10% contingency if necessary.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was passed unanimously. We're now on to agenda item 6A, which is sorry, that came out wrong. The Transportation Manager's Report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Martinovich, Transportation Manager. 3 items I wanted to highlight today. The first being that we're continuing to work on our local road funding initiatives following the last meeting we had at this board, the RTC. We heard those comments. Our consultant Catherine is continuing to work through those methodologies. We are also working internally with ourselves are looking at some comments we received from this board related to gravel roads and what it means for gravel roads. What does that look like? We're working on that. We're also looking at delivery options. How do we deliver, additional, if we were to receive additional funding, how do we deliver that program and those projects out in terms of design and construction? So all that's going on in the background. Suffice it to say, there'll be more information coming out after the new year, including some more additional public outreach. So look for that. Wanted to provide that update. I wanted to note that also I reported this last month. We've lost another project manager out of our team here at Public Works. Brianna Greenlaw is moving on to another agency. I just wanted to do a shout out to her for her time and her effort. She's done a wonderful job, and we're definitely going to miss her. So I just wanted to do a shout out to her and say thank you for her time here at the city. So on that, we're down 2 project managers. I know Randy, who just walked out, our city engineer, is scrambling to find some resources. We are a little delayed on some of our project delivery. I've taken on a couple of more projects myself to manage them, the DMV multi-use path and our vulnerable user one as we look to fill these. So just wanted to note that, if things look a little slower than normal, we're a little short-staffed at the moment. So just know that. I'm happy to answer any other questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item 6B, which is our street operations report. Is there anything significant you'd like to highlight?
The only thing I'll mention real quick is they've been doing a lot of, street crews have been doing a lot of ditch work. So that's why we're seeing a lot of chemical weed abatement. We're seeing a lot of that, the shoulder work on asphalt roads, that's sort of related together. So those are the only 2 I wanted to note. I've told, expect to see a big pothole number next month. Maybe we'll see what it looks like.
Sounds good. Okay, and then we're on agenda item 6C. Does anybody have anything they want to share? No sharing? You have a little share?
Little share.
Okay,
I'll
a
keep it
little
quick.
share, Mr.
Just a
Novak.
question. At some point, I know we've been talking about transit, and is there still going to be a Board of Supervisors retreat item at some point to go over overall transit funding?
It's on the list.
Okay. I didn't see a list, so it's not
You
my
won't
list.
see it till February.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's
Okay.
all I got.
All right. Well, that was little. I like it. Anybody else? Are we going to say happy holidays to everybody? I guess we could actually do that since that's around the corner. Okay. Do we have any final public comment?
Denny French for the record, and thank you. I'd like to bring up artificial turf, and I brought it up before and asked everyone to do their own research on it. I find it really disturbing what I found, and I'd like to be open-minded about it, even though I am very biased. Understand that myself. And so I've looked at every angle I can. It costs people in injury, and it actually doesn't, in my understanding. But Dave, I can't think of his last name, Dave
Navarro.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Dave.
this committee doesn't have jurisdiction
Right,
over that.
right. But I'm just saying that we had a discussion on cost efficiencies and one as opposed to the other and such. And I'd like everybody to revisit those considerations, please. And one of the things you also have to deal with is that soon it may be illegal to dump. It will be considered hazardous waste in some areas. And we might run up to that and have to revisit our landfill situation. So keep that in mind, please, and give it a good look over. Thank you very much.
Okay, is there anybody else? Okay, well, with that, then, you're good. We're adjourned, and everyone have a wonderful holiday. And thanks.